The longer Ukraine delays, the worse the defeat. Ladies and gentlemen, the whole world is watching closely for the outcome of the negotiations in Abu Dhabi between Ukraine and Russia. We will now bring you the latest developments. Please stay with us. Trump and Putin send an ultimatum to Zelensky. Another round of negotiations took place yesterday in Abu Dhabi between Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. The Russian delegation was once again led by Igor Kostyukov, head of the main intelligence directorate of the Russian General Staff. The presence of such a high-ranking military commander suggests that the talks are focused on core issues, specifically battlefield realities and frontline trends. And the situation on the ground continues to deteriorate almost daily. As President Zelensky reportedly admitted in a private conversation with the Belgian Prime Minister, the frontline situation is dire. Manpower in the armed forces is nearly exhausted. Ukraine needs money and weapons as Russian forces continue to advance. The first round of talks in Abu Dhabi on the 23rd-24th reportedly went well. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt even called it a historic event. However, this outcome displeased the British and several European leaders, who appeared to intervene. Subsequently, the Ukrainian leadership slowed the negotiation process, citing concerns over escalating tensions between the US and Iran and requesting a delay until the 4th. Interestingly, two of Trump's envoys, Witkoff and Kushner, had not initially planned to attend this round in Abu Dhabi, believing the negotiations would continue without them. However, European interference changed the situation, making U.S. pressure on Ukraine necessary. It is worth recalling that Zelensky had confidently claimed he could get Russia to halt attacks during negotiations. That calculation failed. Russia has learned from past mistakes, and the U.S. has not shown the same friendliness toward Ukraine. Trump quickly rejected the argument that Russia does not want peace or had violated the energy ceasefire. So far, there is no official information about the outcome of the first meeting on the 3rd. However, given Zelensky's firm stance, it is likely that little progress will be made in this round. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stated that the war will continue until Ukraine agrees to withdraw from the Donbas region. He emphasized that the door to a peaceful solution remains open and that Russia is ready to cooperate. But until Kyiv makes what Moscow considers the appropriate decisions, the special military operation will continue. Russian forces are striking targets they claim are linked to Ukraine's military-industrial complex. Peskov also reiterated Russia's core demands: a full Ukrainian withdrawal from contested territories and a commitment that no foreign troops or Western alliances will be present on Ukrainian soil after a peace agreement. Notably, this is the first time Russia has explicitly linked attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure to Kyiv's refusal to withdraw from Donbas. His remarks came shortly after heavy Russian airstrikes early on the morning of the 3rd. However, the most striking comment came from Trump, who rejected Zelensky's claims that Russia had violated the energy ceasefire. Zelensky had spent considerable time urging Trump to respond and punish Russia for allegedly breaking a week-long ceasefire. According to Zelensky, the ceasefire began Friday evening on the 30th and was expected to last until Friday evening the 6th, covering the duration of the Abu Dhabi talks. This view was supported by hawkish Republicans such as Senator Lindsey Graham, who urged Trump to provide Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, and Congressman Don Bacon, who called for advanced air defense systems and long-range strike weapons. However, Trump firmly rejected Zelensky's accusations and appeared to support Moscow's position. Trump stated clearly that a ceasefire agreement had been reached with Putin and that Putin had kept his word. This leads to two conclusions. First, Zelensky may not know exactly what Trump and Putin agreed upon, suggesting the energy ceasefire was determined solely by Washington and the Kremlin. Second, Trump did not condemn attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, which could be interpreted as tacit approval of further strikes. This suggests Trump, like Putin, may view such attacks as leverage to pressure Zelensky's government into accepting peace terms. The early morning airstrike on the 3rd may have served as a signal that pressure comes not only from Putin, but also from Trump. NATO and the UK criticized Trump. A harsh reality is that as long as Zelensky continues receiving backing from the EU, NATO, and the UK, the war is unlikely to end soon. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte visited Kyiv shortly after Russia's strike on energy infrastructure and condemned the attack. His visit also came just before the second round of Abu Dhabi negotiations. Some question whether the purpose was to encourage Zelensky to continue fighting, much like Boris Johnson previously did. Rutte even proposed a post-war peace model involving Western troops in Ukraine, an idea Russia would categorically reject, making a serious agreement unlikely. Similarly, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called Trump to condemn Russia's energy strikes as barbaric. Both NATO leadership and the UK arguably benefit geopolitically from the continuation of the war, as it enhances Britain's influence in Europe despite economic and military limitations. Critics note the irony that NATO itself bombed Yugoslavia's power infrastructure in 1999, justifying it as necessary to disrupt Serbia's war machine. Regardless of justification, civilians always bear the consequences, and Russia's missile and drone attacks have undeniably worsened Ukraine's energy crisis. Ukraine has rerouted electricity from sparsely populated areas to major cities, yet nationwide blackouts still last 12 to 16 hours daily. In cities like Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Dnipro, prolonged outages mean no heating and no water. War, business, and global power. Some analysts argue the war will continue until one side collapses and the other is exhausted, benefiting corporations with ties to governments in both the US and Russia. Media outlets such as The Guardian and Forbes have speculated that Trump-aligned business figures see potential financial gains in post-war trade with Russia. Reports suggest discussions include reintegrating Russia's multi-trillion-dollar economy into global markets, with American companies poised to benefit. Large-scale Russian energy and mining projects could reshape Europe's economic map and deepen divisions between the US and its European allies. Zelensky's fears. Observers suggest Zelensky fears three things: that Trump and Putin have already reached agreements without him, that Ukraine's energy, economic, and military situation will worsen beyond his control, that he could be removed from power for obstructing peace deals. A Ukrainian Telegram channel even claimed Ukraine may receive a verbal ultimatum: accept the US-Russia terms or face intensified missile and drone attacks. A broader global crisis. The Ukraine crisis is part of a larger global struggle. The United Nations has warned of severe financial difficulties without US funding. The U.S. contributes roughly 22% of the UN's regular budget and 26% of its peacekeeping budget. Budget cuts have forced UN agencies like the World Food Program to prepare layoffs and program reductions. The Trump administration argues U.S. taxpayer money has long funded institutions that do not align with American values, leading to U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization and other international bodies. Critics of WHO argue it supported strict COVID-19 lockdown policies and shifted definitions of herd immunity in ways seen as politically influenced rather than scientifically grounded. Supporters, however, say WHO coordination remains vital for global health security. The situation in Ukraine, the Abu Dhabi negotiations, and the broader geopolitical and financial shifts all point to a rapidly changing global order. The outcome of the current talks may have consequences far beyond the battlefield. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you in our next program.